Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about the sci-fi action film, Outside the Wire. So just as a heads up before I get going with this review, my dog is in the background in this video behind the camera. She gets anxious when she's by herself, and other family members in my house currently aren't at home, so she has to be near me at all times. Otherwise she gets anxious, she barks, she howls, she causes all kinds of chaos. So if you hear any rattling behind the background, if you hear a keychain or anything like that, it's because of her. That's all her. So excuse the noises that happen in the background in the middle of this review. Anyway, Outside the Wire, like I said, is a science fiction action film directed by Mikael Hafström. Again, I apologize if I'm not saying that name right at all. I am absolutely terrible when it comes to foreign pronunciation. It portrays two American soldiers working together, one of them being a secret cyborg agent, and the other being an Air Force lieutenant who disobeys a direct order at the beginning of the movie, and he ends up getting punished for it as a result, and he's placed under the command of Anthony Mackie's character named Captain Leo, and this other character, Lieutenant, whose name is Harp and played by Damson Idris. They have to work together throughout the story of the film. The plot of this movie isn't really anything you've seen before. It's just following two American soldiers, like I said, who are going out to save the day from the villains. In this case, the villains being Russians who are taking over Ukraine, and there's a big demilitarized zone in the middle of the country, and they're trying to stop these Russian terrorists who I think they were called Krasnys, and they have to stop them from getting this atomic bomb or launch codes for nuclear bombs, and if they get a hold of those bombs, it'll be apparently the end of the world as they know it. Also, since it's a science fiction film, it's a futuristic setting, and all of these forces, the Russians, the American military, whatever, they use these really high-tech robotic soldiers called Gumps, which the first time I heard that, I was like, are you serious? You're calling them Gumps? Like Forrest Gump? Like, I couldn't stop thinking of Forrest Gump whenever I heard that word. It's just, I don't know. They have an explanation in the beginning of the movie for that name, but it just sounds ridiculous to me still, even whenever I think about it now. I will start by saying that the action scenes were good in this movie. A lot of it is computer generated. There isn't really much in the way of traditional effects outside from the hands-on fight scenes where there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat, but that mostly involves Anthony Mackie's character, Captain Leo. Harp is mostly there for most of the movie just to kind of tag along and see the story unfold before him. He doesn't really do much anything useful outside of fire a bullet here or there, and I only think he kills like one or maybe two people throughout the whole movie. But anyways, like I said, the action scenes are good where it counts, especially the hands-on scenes where there's fisticuffs being thrown. Even some of the firefight scenes can be good. It's an R-rated movie, so it definitely increases the uptake in violence, which is nice to see. I also found the acting ability of the lead actors to be pretty good as far as the quality of this movie is concerned, which you're definitely going to hear from me in just a few minutes as far as my opinion on that is concerned. Although they're pretty stereotypical as far as being your average American military bros, the movie does a good job at showing the relationship between those two and how it changes over the course of the story from being friendly to antagonistic and then going back to being friendly and antagonistic. It goes back and forth, which may annoy some, but I found the dialogue helped balance this out a little bit, and I did like that they have a lot of interactions with each other. And to be honest guys, the action scenes, the acting, the special effects and all that, that's where all the good things end for me for this film. Watching this movie was extremely painful for me, especially during the slow parts when they're trying to get all philosophical with all the dialogue scenes. Actually, not even during the philosophical scenes. Even the more practical moments of the film did not make any sense whatsoever. Right at the beginning of the movie, when Harp and Leo are introduced to each other, they go off on a mission, and Leo tells Harp, oh, don't bring your military gear, don't bring your weapons or anything like that, because you'll attract attention whenever you're out in the street. And Harp's like, okay, fine, whatever. And how do you think they proceed going about their mission, even though Leo clearly says they're not supposed to bring military gear? They bring military gear. Harp wears a tack vest for practically the whole movie, even though Leo clearly told him not to wear any gear to stand out in a crowd in case any Krasnys would recognize him and try to shoot him. Same thing with Leo even, like he's wearing a helmet and then he's carrying a military standard rifle, and then they go to some sort of overturned vehicle, like a truck that has military supplies in it, and all of these Russian or Ukrainian citizens are going up to it. They're trying to steal the supplies, and the military obviously wants to get the supplies back so that they can ration it back at their base. What does Leo think a good idea is whenever he gets there? He takes off his helmet, disarms his weapon, just leaves it on the ground, and then he starts walking up to those citizens that are trying to pillage from the truck, and then he talks to these citizens just like any stereotypical peacekeeping scene you've seen in literally every war movie ever. I wouldn't have been annoyed so much from that scene apart from being so cliche, except these are supposed to be Ukrainian citizens that he's talking to. And throughout the whole movie, all of these Ukrainian citizens, you don't really hear them talk, or if you do hear them talk, they're not really subtitled. It just says speaking in Ukrainian or something like that, and the subtitles below the screen. And so Leo has all these conversations, even Harp sometimes on occasions. They're all talking to these Ukrainian citizens here and there, and they're like, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. Can you do this? And they're all like, yeah, okay, yeah. And it's like, why do you think all Ukrainian citizens speak English or understand what you're talking about? If you were to actually go to Ukraine and speak English just to an average Joe in the street, most of them would be going like, This movie treats all the Ukrainian citizens like they understand English and that all the Americans are supposed to be heroes. Oh, no, wait, actually they don't, because it actually does a big pivot toward the end. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a huge plot twist in this movie involving war and peace and how Americans are always going to be bad, and I'm not really going to get into the plot twist much at all in case you really are interested in seeing this bad movie, but essentially it looks at nuclear weapons, which is the whole point of the movie, trying to avoid the nuclear explosions happening or the bombs going off, whatever. And without getting into too much detail, it basically tries to portray Americans and Russians on the same plane of evil as each other. And you can get into a big whole political, philosophical discussion about this sort of thing, but when I was watching this movie, I couldn't help but be like, movie, you're not smart enough for this. And that was the main problem that I had with this movie. It tried to be way too smart than it had any right to be. Dumb action movies aren't necessarily bad when they're done right. I mean, they've been done forever. There's a reason why Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren, Jean-Claude Van Damme, all these big name action stars, they were famous for making a ton of dumb action movies. The thing with all those movies, though, is that they never tried to be deep. They never tried to have any sort of subtext or meaning or anything abstract to it. It was just plain good old-fashioned fun, and that's what people want to see whenever they watch a movie like Outside the Wire. They don't want to be patronized to. They don't want to be taught what's important in a war or everyone's a villain. People are already bored and brought down enough by things in real life. They don't need to feel depressed when watching a movie. There was a really annoying conversation that happened between Leo and Harp in this movie that really grinded my gears in particular. It centers around this discussion about emotions and humanity, and Leo makes a case that maybe humans need to have more emotion. It's like, dude, you're a robot. In the movie, apparently his lifespan at that point was 5 years. He was 5 years old. And it's like, how are you able to have human-like emotions and you're able to just talk like a complete sassy Sue just within 5 years of time? Like, are you kidding me with this? And just for one final kick in the balls for people who thought there was a redeeming factor toward the end, it doesn't really end. I mean, it does end, but there's no formal resolution after the fact. It just ends and that's it. No falling action, no scenes that kind of show where characters are, what they're doing after the climax. Once the climax is over, the movie's over. Just like that. And it's like, what? Like, it just feels so cheap. It just feels like we were taken along for a ride. If that ride was being towed behind a pickup truck while being skidded across the asphalt road as it's going along. This movie was just a complete waste of time from beginning to middle to end. There are sci-fi action movies on Sci-Fi, the actual TV channel. Those movies are better than this one. If Netflix really wants to make big budget action films that are on par with what Hollywood makes, then they really need to step their game up better than this. Like I said, the action scenes, some of the acting from the lead actors, and the special effects are all good in parts, but when you're surrounded by so much stupidity in the story, it just wears you down as you watch it, and it just makes you wish that it was over. I wholeheartedly cannot recommend Outside the Wire to anyone. Sci-fi fans, action fans, movie fans in general, just stay away. You're not missing anything from watching this movie. Anyway, with that, that's my very long-winded, angry review of Outside the Wire. I apologize for coming out with so much negativity, but it just had to be said. This movie was just not that great, and I'm really hoping that the next movie is much better in terms of scope. I just don't like watching bad movies, guys. It makes me feel bad watching them because it makes me feel like they didn't care whenever they made them. But anyways, that's going to be the end of my video. Thanks for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it, as angry as it was, and stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Brazilian film Double Dad, aka Pai Am Dobro. Bye bye!